Breaking news.
I was watching the news on TV when the screen suddenly changed. No way! It was a case of holdup. The scene being broadcast from the helicopter was my husband's office. I rushed to call his cell phone. Are you okay? Are you safe?
What do you mean? I'm working right now.
What? Are you with the suspect?
Huh?
My name is Heather. I'm a researcher at the scientific manufacturer. I've been married to my husband Dale for 6 months. We met at a house party hosted by my boss. I was brought up by a kind of parent who was very devoted to education since I was a young child. I loved studying. After high school, I enrolled in a university with strong science programs and devoted myself to research until graduate school. I would clarify the unknowns and problems and approach them in various ways. I enjoyed the process of searching for answers based on records and results. That alone made me feel fulfilled in life. Research was my life for 6 years in school. Although my grades were good, I was far from being fashionable or having a colorful love life. I told Pam, my boss at work. She told me to broaden my horizon by getting involved in things other than research. Hence, our party was organized. To be honest, I was not at all enthusiastic at first. I had been to a house party once when I was a student at the request of a colleague at my part-time job. It turned out to be a horrible experience for me. I only remember that I was teased and called a nerd or geek just because I was a science major. In fact, I neither knew how to act at a party nor flirt with boys. When I think back now, I wish I had been a little more experienced, but that didn't change the fact that I was hurt. That was why I was reluctant to attend the party Pam was throwing. She was someone I respected a lot, so I didn't dare to refuse her invitation at the time. She was a prominent employee at work and had the tremendous trust of her colleagues. She also had a lot of experience in relationships, and to me, she seems perfect as both a researcher and a woman. Thus, I decided to attend the party. There were many guys from up-and-coming venture companies there. Dale was one of them. I wasn't a naive student anymore, so I mingled and socialized unlike in the past. After having a conversation with a group of people for a while, Dale spoke to me privately. I immediately braced myself for the possibility of being hurt again, but my fears were unfounded. He listened to me intently, and instead of calling me nerdy, he praised me for devoting myself to one thing for a long time. It was the first time anyone had ever said such a thing to me, and I was instantly attracted to him. We went out for a few years and then got married. We were in our honeymoon period for about 6 months. Then, his attitude began to change. When we first started living together, he was eager to help me with the chores and showered me with his love and appreciation. After a while, he stopped doing any of it. He worked so much overtime and on weekends that we didn't even have quality time together. I understood that being a startup venture, he must have been quite busy. I also thought that men normally dislike doing chores, so I didn't mind so much about it. However, when he started coming home smelling of alcohol and a woman's perfume, I began to worry a little. One day, I couldn't bear the feelings of loneliness and anxiety about him cheating on me, so I asked him directly, you have been coming home late these days. I want to spend a little more time with you. You often come home smelling of alcohol and perfume, but you're not cheating on me, are you? He was changing his clothes from work and started yelling at me with a grimace.
It's a very important time to build a relationship with my clients for the company's success right now. I've been taken to places I don't even want to go and forced to drink. This is a part of my job, but you accuse me of cheating while I'm working so hard. Have you lost your compassion after studying too much? You're an unfit wife. Shame on you.
I didn't expect him to be so upset. I assumed he must have been under a lot of pressure, and my lack of consideration had made him angry. I regretted it and apologized repeatedly, but he became even colder than before. A while later, I was off work that day. Dale left for work early in the morning. I was folding the laundry while watching the news on TV when the anchorman reported breaking news. I stopped my hands and turned to the TV to see what was going on. I was stunned. A man had forced himself into Dell's office and was holding an employee hostage. I couldn't believe such a threat fell upon my own husband. The camera caught a glimpse of the suspect yelling something at his hostages. Worried about Dale's safety, I immediately called his cell phone. The ringing continued several times. Then I heard his voice. "Honey, where are you? Are you okay?" There was a short pause.
What do you mean? I'm working at the office.
It couldn't have been possible. Right at the time, his company was being televised for a hold-up case. I wondered if he was being told what to say by the suspect. I fearfully asked him, "Is the suspect next to you right now?" I heard him let out, "Huh?" like an idiot. It was only for a moment, and he immediately gathered himself.
Oh, no. I'm working from a client's office. I'm okay. I just found out about it on the news. I'm sorry. I have to deal with it, so I gotta go.
He hung up the phone. I sensed something strange. Even though he was at his client's office, I wondered if it was possible for him to find out later than I did. If he was in the middle of a meeting, it would have been impossible for him to take my call. If he was on the way back to his office, it was strange to say that he was working there. It was a major case of hold-up with hostages. I decided to ask him about the strange circumstance, although I might have gotten him upset again, and watched how it unraveled on the TV. It was successfully solved without any casualties in the early morning. Just then, Dale came back home. When I was about to ask him what had happened, he suddenly pulled me into his arms.
I love you, honey. If you hadn't called me, I would have been so freaked out that I might have gone mad. I'm really glad to have you.
I too was almost losing my mind with anxiety as well. Although he was not at the scene, he must have been affected indirectly. He must have felt scared.
I also want to apologize about the other day. I know I was a jerk to take it out on you. I said some terrible things, but I really care about you.
After saying all that, he went to the kitchen and started to serve the food I had prepared.
Take it easy today. I will take care of the housework for you.
I wondered how long it had been since he showed any affection. He had never apologized about coming home drunk late, nor had he thanked me for anything I had done those days. It was the only time he helped me with the housework and appreciated me, but it was enough to make me happy. Before I knew it, I had forgotten about the strange feeling I felt when I called him. The next day, while I went about my business as usual at work, Pam came to talk to me. She was wondering if something good had happened to me as I looked happier. It was embarrassing that I had unconsciously shown it on my face. I told her everything that had happened the day before. When I finished, she looked skeptical. I wondered if I said something out of place. I had assumed that she would have been happy for me, contrary to my expectation. What came out of her mouth was something else. "Are you sure you're okay with that?" I didn't get what she meant by it. When I asked her, she explained apologetically. When a man suddenly becomes nice, it is usually when he has something to hide, cheating, debt, or something. I was irritated to hear that. It's just that the men you dated in the past have been like that. Dell is different. He's probably just tired from work. She raised her eyebrows as if to say, uh-huh, when I, normally a quiet person, countered her. I got even more irritated and lashed out at her. I met him thanks to you, but you don't know him like I do. Please don't meddle too much in my marriage. She mumbled, right, and walked away with a sad face. After that day, she started taking more days off from work. I worried if it was my fault. A few days had passed since then, and I was aware that I went over the line. I wanted to apologize to her, but I didn't know how to bring it up, and was only able to have businesslike conversations with her. Just as I was thinking that I had to do something about it, she asked me out. She wanted to show me something. A few days later, Dell's indifferent attitude toward me was back in force, and I was feeling lonely again. Then we received a call from his parents asking us to visit them for an important talk. We drove to their house. Dell hadn't been sweet to me since the hold-up incident. Our relationship had cooled off, and there was no conversation in the car. When we arrived, we were ushered into the living room and were told that my father-in-law was diagnosed with a progressive disease. He would soon need nursing care. It was impossible to do alone by my elderly mother-in-law, so she asked Dell to help as much as possible. He seems to be annoyed by her request.
I'm pretty busy with work, so why don't we just leave everything to Heather? She doesn't seem to be doing much at work. I wouldn't mind if she stayed with you guys if needed.
How heartless he sounded in front of his parents, while I was dumbfounded by his selfishness. My father-in-law opened his mouth.
Well, it would be better to have more people helping us. But aren't you quite busy at work right now, Heather? I don't know all the details, but I heard that your company has made a breakthrough invention, and the business is growing fast. You know about that, don't you?
Dale glared at me. What my father-in-law said was true. It was a medical invention, so I supposed he must have come across it as he researched his own illness.
What invention? I haven't heard of it yet. How come he knows about it and I don't? Don't embarrass me in front of my parents.
Although the volume of his voice was kept down in front of his parents, his tone was filled with anger. His big pride was hurt. Yet, he did all kinds of things behind my back. Finding the perfect timing, I turned to him and spoke clearly. Why, you didn't know? Because you're never home. You don't care about spending time with me. And you're cheating around. My in-laws were absolutely mortified at the unexpected turn of events.
Don't talk nonsense. Not only are you embarrassing me, but you are also making a stupid joke in front of my parents.
It would have been much better if it had been just a stupid joke. Can you still justify your wrongdoing? I took out an envelope from my bag and spread its contents on the table. There were pictures of him going into motels with various women and of him making out with them in his car. Those were all taken by a private investigator. Pam was the reason why I decided to hire one. It turned out that she had been absent from work because she was following him by herself. As a result, she discovered him entering a motel with a woman other than me and filmed the moment with her phone. She showed it to me. It would be a lie if I said I didn't think what terrible news she brought upon me at that time. She told me that she was deeply suspicious of him and that she didn't want to see me being deceived by him. If there was nothing suspicious, she would have told me everything and apologized. And at worst, she expected me to condemn her. Since I had seen irrefutable evidence, I could no longer escape from reality. I decided to thoroughly investigate his affair and hired a professional investigator. According to the investigation, he was having multiple partners and even complained about me to them.
My wife has no feminine charms. I married her thinking she could at least be a housekeeper, but all she can do is research. She doesn't know how to please a man at all. Compared to her, you are amazing.
He badmouthed me. By the way, how did I know that? One of his partners was not serious about him and sold him for a little gift. His parents were so shocked that they were in tears as soon as I mentioned the divorce and alimony.
Wait, that's not true.
He started to make excuses and pleaded with me to forgive him.
I just gave in to temptations. You know, I had been drinking, so I wasn't thinking straight when they made a move on me. The only person I really love is you. You are smarter than me, so you can see that, right?
What nonsense. He totally underestimated me. He must have been playing with many women like me by whispering sweet words to them. He enjoyed it enough, and it was time to pay the bill. I'm neither your housekeeper nor your servant. Go back to your amazing woman, who knows how to please a man for your comfort. That is, if she's still interested in you. When I finished saying what I wanted to say, I left him behind with his parents. Later on, Dale was sacked after the embezzlement of his entertainment budget came to light. His mistresses were all bimbos, who were just after his money. Once he became a tight wallet, they all disappeared one by one. He moved back in with his parents after losing his job. They agreed to help him with some of the alimony on the condition that he worked at the nearby factory and looked after his father at night. Life at home must be unbearable for him, who used to work only for money, booze, and women. I apologized and thanked Pam. I had said terrible things, and thanks to her, I had found out about the affair. I was finally forced to face reality. I asked her why she went to such lengths to help me. You reminded me of myself in the past. You think I have a lot of experience, but of course, it wasn't always like that. I had fallen for a bad guy too. In my case, he didn't cheat on me, but he forced me to pay his debts. That's why I felt I had to help you somehow. Don't thank me because it's all about self-satisfaction in the end. I feel deeper respect and affection toward her now. Since then, she has taught me makeup and fashion. I'm trying to be more cautious about other things besides research. Don't mean to brag, but I think I look much better now. When I go out for drinks with Pam, it's not uncommon for me to get picked up. I see this as a good opportunity and training my eyes for better men. Whether it is research or romance, broadening my perspective would lead to a better result.
Here, this will get rid of your fever. I'm not coming back until you get better.
My husband poured cold water on me. My fever was so high that I had difficulty getting up. We had been married for 5 years. When did he turn into such a jerk? I asked the wrong person for help. Even as my consciousness faded, my anger toward him welled up. It was then someone came to my rescue. When my husband returned home, he was so stunned to see the person that he lost his voice. I looked at his face and laughed at him so hard. Suck it up, you deserved it. My name is Cassidy. 33 years old. I'm a homemaker. I met my husband Alex when we were at university. He was one of my classmates in the same circle of friends. He was a good-natured guy who was popular amongst all students. If someone was in trouble, he reached out to them before anyone else. He helped me many times as a friend too. It was when I had a drink with friends in my senior year. I found out that the then boyfriend I had been with since freshman year was cheating on me and just broke up with him on that day. The other girl was also in the same circle, and I didn't want to make it a public affair. I was careful not to let people around me know, but Alex noticed that I wasn't in good spirits.
Hey, what's wrong?
Tears welled up involuntarily when he asked me. I had been holding back my emotions, not being able to tell anyone. He was stunned to see my crying and took me out of the bar. When I told him what had happened, he comforted me until I could gather myself. I felt a little lighter after telling him. When we went back inside, our friends teased us, which he lightly handled. From then on, he contacted me frequently. He invited me to parties and hangouts. As I hung out with him, I gradually felt better. At the same time, I realized that I had fallen for him. Until then, he was always the one to ask me out, so I gathered my courage and started to ask him out. On the day of our graduation, we became official. I was at the peak of my happiness then. We both got jobs near the university. He worked in sales and I in administration. Although our jobs were different, we shared the same problems as newbies. We often met up after work and on weekends to encourage each other. There were times when things didn't go well at work, but he helped me get through it. He always knew what I wanted to hear. It was really comforting to spend time with him. He didn't change over the years of our relationship. Although we lived separately close to each other, we were almost living together, going back and forth to each other's places. We continued our relationship like that. And before we knew it, 6 years had passed. When we hung out with our university friends, they often asked us when we were getting married. Alex always handled the question with silly jokes. As the days went on, our 6th anniversary arrived. Hey, when are we getting married? I asked him directly. He answered after a short pause.
My mom is a bit crazy and overprotective. If I told her I was getting married, I worry what she would say. She might say something terrible to you. I do want to be with you forever though.
In all the years we had been together, I had never met his parents. When he was on the phone with his mom, Kelly, I normally kept quiet.
My mom is such a pain in the neck.
He always complained and didn't dare to tell her about us. What do you think about marriage? Then he replied he wanted it as well. I will do my best to work things out with your mom. I was anxious, of course, but I held his hand and pushed him. The following week, we went to tell his mom about our engagement. His parents divorced when he was in middle school. I had braced myself before meeting her, but it turned out to be a waste. I'm looking forward to the wedding. You will look like a princess in a dress. Unlike the person Alex has described, Kelly treated me nicely. He seemed surprised at the different reaction from what he had imagined. I felt a sense of relief. Kelly spoke excitedly about the wedding the whole time, and our first meeting ended harmoniously.
If I knew it was going to be like this, I should have married you sooner.
Alex laughed on the way home. We decided to have the wedding on my birthday and moved in together first. We had known each other for a long time and had been semi-cohabiting, but it still felt very new. I rushed home to cook dinner after work. Alex always finished everything I cooked for him. Whenever I was reminded that we were married, I felt tremendous happiness. Kelly brought a lot of food without notice and meddled in the wedding planning. She was a bit nosy, but we were getting along well. On the day of the wedding, Alex and I headed to the wedding venue after registering early in the morning. We were congratulated by friends and family, including our university friends. Kelly cried from happiness many times from the beginning till the end. The day after the wedding, we went on our honeymoon to Hawaii. "Have a great time," she sent us off with a big smile. I bought lots of gifts for her on the trip. Alex had warned me about her, but I thought we were getting on all right. I felt as close as ever to Alex, and my life seems to be going perfectly. However, after returning from the trip, Kelly started acting differently. "I got you some gift, Kelly." I handed her a lot of souvenirs. This must be from Alex, and you picked this one." She sorted them out. I asked her how she knew. "Because you have no clue what I like. I've realized that you have no sense of style since you were preparing for the wedding." I was stunned by her bold comment. "By the way, when are you going to quit your job?" She suddenly changed the subject. I'm not planning to." My voice faltered. "Honeymoon is over now. You must focus on having a baby, you understand? You gotta do what you're expected to, right, Alex?" He looked down without saying anything. It had been 6 years since I started working. I was entrusted with more work and came to appreciate it more. Even after marriage and having children, I was planning to keep my job. I couldn't understand why I had to quit. Why didn't Alex say anything? Let me think about it. "You're 28, aren't you? You don't have much time to think about it." She almost scolded me. I left her house without coming to a conclusion in the end. "Hey, how can you didn't help me out?" I asked Alex on the way home.
Once she starts, she won't listen to me anyway. You just have to give up.
"Huh? Why should I give up?" He didn't answer me, but just furrowed his eyebrows. It was hard to believe that we were joyful from our honeymoon trip just a few hours ago. We returned home in heavy silence. Since then, Kelly started calling me every day. "Cassidy, have you given your resignation yet? There is a good OBGYN, and I want you to see him as soon as possible." I almost became neurotic every time I spoke to her. I finally had enough and decided to resign from my job after telling my boss what had been going on. I cried in frustration on my last day. I thought it was going to satisfy Kelly, but it didn't at all. "Come on, I'm going to teach you every one of the chores." She came over every day. She instructed me in detail about the housework I had been doing half-heartedly. I was asked if I was pregnant every day. There was usually a knock at the door within an hour after Alex left for work. The mere hour before she showed up was the only time I had for myself. After Alex returned home, the three of us had dinner together, and then she finally left. Such was my life. One night, after Kelly left, "Hey, hon, I don't want your mom to come over every day. Can you tell her?" I pleaded with Alex.
"You cook better now, thanks to my mom."
He steered the conversation away every time. Stress built up day by day, and I started to lose weight. There was no way I could have conceived in such a state. After 3 years like that, I reached my limit. A child is a godsend. It's not something that's given just because you want it. Stop coming here every day. I blew up on Kelly before I knew it. Once I had let it out, I came back to myself and regretted it right away. I saw her face turned bright red. "I'm doing everything for you guys. How dare you be so rude?" She yelled at me. I didn't know what to do, but I decided to say what I wanted to say at that point. "I'm telling you, it's nuisance. There's no need for you to come here every day." As we argued back and forth for a while, I noticed that Alex was standing there.
Honey, stop talking to her like that.
He only scolded me. "She said a lot of things to me too, so why are you only mad at me?"
Why? Why don't you get it?
I was so hurt that I ran into the bedroom and wailed non-stop. I heard Kelly leave and Alex came into the room.
Are you still crying? You should be sorry for what you did.
He mumbled. "Why do I have to be sorry? I've worked so hard and endured so much."
I warned you before we got married. You knew what you were getting into. You said you would make it work. Don't be rude to my mom anymore.
He left cold air behind. I couldn't stop crying even hours later. After that day, Kelly stopped coming. She called me once in a while, but I never answered. If she needed something from me, she spoke through Alex. He occasionally went to see her without me. I continued to have a cold war with her, and my marriage became loveless. We neither argue nor be amicable. We only had the bare minimum of conversation. There were days when he became hostile toward me.
My mom often says that you're a failure.
I was told out of the blue. He came home later and later every day, and sometimes he didn't even bother to come back. It continued for a while, and I started to think about getting a divorce. There was no trace of the sweet man I used to know. I sometimes wondered how we could go back to our former selves. Then one day, I felt unwell. I took some cold medicine and did my chores, but I still wasn't better by the evening. I was going to take a little break on the sofa, but I ended up falling asleep. Then I was woken by Alex, who came home from work.
How come there's no dinner?
I had been out for quite a while. My body felt hot, and I was quite feverish. I apologized and tried to get up, but I wobbled back down. Alex only looked at me coldly without any concern. "I think I have a high fever. Can't you take me to the doctor?" I asked him in a daze.
Here, let this cool your fever. I'm not coming back until you're better.
He poured cold water on me from a bowl.
I'm going out for a drink if there's no dinner.
He left me behind. I was pretty furious, but I couldn't say anything back and just lay there in dampness. Sometime later, when the dawn broke, Alex came back reeking of alcohol.
I'm back. Have you gotten better?
I heard his cheerful voice coming from the hallway. The moment he entered the living room, Kelly slapped him across his face. He sobered up immediately and froze there. "Where have you been? Speak up!"
What are you doing here?
He seems to be confused and freaked out at the same time, which made me laugh. I asked her over. "You left me with a high fever, so she helped me." He was speechless. A few minutes after he left, my phone rang. I assumed it was him calling to apologize. I couldn't get up, so I crawled on the floor to grab my phone. When I answered it, I was surprised to hear Kelly's voice. "Kelly, please help me." I squeezed my voice out. Within 10 minutes, she was at my side and took me to the emergency. "I'm sorry to bother you." When I apologized to her, she replied, "You're not feeling well, don't worry." I was immediately put on an IV drip and felt a little better afterward. Since I had no other symptoms, The doctor let me go. On the way home, Kelly bought a lot of electrolyte drinks for me. You've been so kind. I thanked her for her help. It's normal. We are family. When we arrived home, I told her about the rough patch Alex and I were going through. She was disgusted and also disappointed by his action. Alex, you owe her an apology. She scolded him, but he tried to excuse himself.
She's been a drama queen. It's just a fever. She's overreacting.
He sobbed like a little kid. Kelly sighed loudly. You were quite young, but don't you remember? It's just like when I decided to divorce your father. You must have taken the same bad traits from him. Cassidy, you want a divorce, don't you? Yes, I can't be with him anymore. I answered honestly. Are you serious? You don't even work. You can't live without me. He countered with a ridiculous argument. What are you talking about? I just have to get a job again.
I'm so sorry. Please reconsider.
He finally apologized. It's too late. Cassidy, you can stay with me for a while. Kelly yelled at him, and we left the house, leaving him behind. On the way to her house, we spoke about our past. She told me that there was a reason why she was so hard on me. She was once a career woman in the early years of her marriage. When her ex-husband found out that she earned more than him, he quit his job one day. She worked until just before Alex was born, but he did nothing to help her and kept his carefree way. She continued to work hard, took care of the house, and raised Alex. One day, after Alex left for school, she collapsed at home. Her ex-husband, just like Alex, didn't care and went out. When Alex, who was still in middle school, came home, he called an ambulance and saved her. When they were going through a divorce, her ex-husband criticized her for being a workaholic and didn't care about her family. Since then, she believed that kids were always on the mother's side, and that being a perfect homemaker was more important than working. I'm sorry, I forced my opinions on you. She also mentioned that Alex had asked her to come over every day.
Cassidy quit her job, so come and teach her to be a good wife. She wants your help too.
I never said anything like that. Why did he come up with such a lie? After Kelly and I got into a Cold War, he apparently told her that I was bad-mouthing her. He also said that she was doing the same to me. In truth, she never said anything. I didn't understand the meaning of his behavior. Maybe he enjoyed watching us bicker. The next day, I visited an attorney to file for divorce. Alex kept pleading.
Honey, Mom, I'm really sorry. Would you please reconsider?
He begged us in tears. No way. We replied in unison. I told all of my friends from the university about what had happened. They were disgusted and said they would keep their distance from him. One of them works at the same company as him, so rumors were spread there. Kelly is also keeping her distance from him and doesn't contact him anymore. He has lost the trust of his family, friends, and colleagues all at once and must be in despair. I hope he reflects on what he did. I stayed with Kelly until I got a new job and found a new place to live. There is a blank period of 5 years, but I'm grateful to find a job in the same field as before. I still keep in touch with Kelly. We had a falling out once, but now we are like a real mother and daughter. She was as happy as if she were my own mother when I got the job. I hope to keep this relationship with her for a long time.